Do 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 do. Tomorrow comes today. I don't really actually know how it goes. Okay, that's it. Hey, Dwayne Edwards, just email hankering.fernail@gmail.com. Hit me up on the internet, party. Looks like Keith's awake. Good morning, my giant Mongol friend. And I'm preparing the various windows and computer items that will be involved in today's fracas. Tomorrow comes today. Oh man, it moaning. It moaning. Good morning, my peoples. Tomorrow comes. That's all I know of the song. I think there's an entire song, and I don't know that song. Oh boy, what are we doing today? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We are getting ready to do some cartoons, kiddies. Tomorrow comes today. Ooh, it's the solo. I don't even know if I'm doing the melody right. Matter of fact, I'm pretty stinking sure I'm butchering it. Tomorrow comes today. Oh, DURATHRAX. Okay, everybody, we're going to get this party started. Let me just sip on some of this caffeine nectar. Nectar of the Gids. Hey, is that the nectar of the Gids that you're drinking here? Looks like the nectar of the Gids. Oh, hey, I'm in a little box. Look at me. I'm in a little box. Hi, guys. Greetings, Hippogrimins. Your old buddy, Ongren Bernal here. And good morning. Good day, good morning. Nolan Kinshella is up in the spot to be. Let's just start getting into this. You know, some days Saturday feels a lot earlier than others. Sometimes, you know, by the time Cardtoons gets going, I've been up 2 hours and I'm all like normal and stuff, got my act together. Other days, roll right out of bed, make coffee, come in here, bang. Time to be creative. Babuchki. So, what are we talking about today? And what is this other tab here? Oh, no. Ooh. Okay. We're talking about DURATHRAX, guys. We're talking about Dragon Time. Dragon Time. So, no matter what kind of stuff you're running, there's a darn good chance that you're going to start running into some dragon action. And a super common question or request that I get is about dragons and how there's this problem that you can build up to them for like 1 or 2 years. There's this huge dragon. It's like behind all these political forces. It's like devious. It's doing all this cool stuff. Super powerful. And then by the time you get to the thing, your players roll up and like stab it. And that's the end. So how do you make a truly badass dragon? So we're going to do a couple things today. I think we're going to do a little bit of art on DURATHRAX, because it is Saturday morning. And while that art is coming together, and this isn't even a commission today, I'm just doing this for fun because dragons are so fun. And then we'll get back to the commissions soon enough. And we got Gen Con next week. A week from today, we will be in Gen Con. So I look forward to seeing everybody. Okay. Yeah, the go-go juice is absolutely critical. You got to get the go-go juice. So first of all, I just want to do a couple of sketches that can guide me on some of the mechanics. And then we're going to talk about how to push those mechanics in such a way that this thing is not going to be some kind of pushover, and it can also drive the characters to be more inventive because the difficulty is going to be through the roof. Because that inventiveness is what's going to make it something really worth remembering. So I usually like a dragon to live on a mountain of some kind. I know that they're sort of like cavern dwellers and stuff, but I always like to imagine them like looking down on the landscape, right, from the top of some forbidding crag. So I'm just going to do that crag first. I think it's like and I'm not doing like any kind of final drawings here or something. I'm just sort of informing myself. Like, what is going to be the setting and the tone of this whole thing? So I'm just doing some drawings to just give myself that fuel. So I'm not just staring at a blank page thinking, okay, time to make a dragon, because that's what I was just doing, and I was just going nowhere with it. Okay, so there's this big mountain, and just judging by my inability to draw, there's like some kind of split here. And I don't like what I just did with all that black. My brush got all huge all of a sudden. That was weird. You guys see that? I got crazy. All right. Hey guys, thanks for everybody for tuning in. 45 lumpy heads. Gen Con is in Indianapolis, my brother, just like every year. So there's this big crack, or these two masses of stone that have calved apart from one another, forming this place where DURATHRAX's lair is. So already that gives me a question, and answering these questions is how we're going to design this thing. Okay, so the first question that I'm feeling is like, how find lair? How do you find DURATHRAX's lair? It's super remote. It's hundreds of miles from the nearest human settlement. It's way out there because, you know, she can fly. Some people think it's a male. I think DURATHRAX is a female. She can fly. She has an immense range of distance, so she can make her lair anywhere. She doesn't have to do like land travel to go battle her enemies, so she can be way out there. Some little pine forest. I don't need to get into all the art. All I needed was some central idea, and I think I have it. So that's my next sort of question or statement, is like, what is this called? Split mountain or broken mountain? Or no, those just aren't evil enough. Like, what do you call this sort of space right here? Black ray, dark ray. Like the rays come through here. Like, I don't know. Split is kind of cool though, so we'll call it split peak. So by putting a little note there for split peak, worm splitter, nice. Broken tooth. I like broken tooth. That's pretty cool. Broken peak. Oh, just broken. That's all I needed. Thank you. So already something just popped to mind. By the way, thanks guys. So something pops to mind is that this mountain wasn't always like this. This used to be a normal, you know, a bigger single escarpment of stone. And this right here, I'm gonna go to a more of an ICRPG type brush for today. Simple brush. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to get back to, you guys, you know, the caffeine is just starting to kick in. You got to give me a little slack here. No one's giving me a hard time. What's wrong? Okay, so this split, it used to be this single sort of large escarpment of stone like this, right? And then something or someone or DURATHRAX herself split this mountain into these huge chunks. And down in here somewhere is the lair. Okay, between these two huge towers of rock. Okay? My time getting the hang of this. Hey guys. Delicious. Okay, so that's just a first little clue about her lair. And I think it might give us something interesting too, which could be, you know, this kind of concept. You know, what do we do with that concept? If this is the sort of the saddle or the pass, this is broken pass, right? It's like that. Right? That's where, see, you can see the scale now, right? It's like, you know, this is a road. And then the entrance to her lair is like this opening right here. But then also the tops of these things are split and broken. And she's got some caves and some openings. And we're kind of having a little bit of an interesting idea forming just on accident here. And remember, you guys, no stunts, no tricks as far as Cardtoons goes. I literally just got out of bed, made coffee, and came on into my workshop. And while I was waking up, I was like, oh man, I need to do DURATHRAX today, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But that's exactly where I want to be. If I were to do a bunch of prep, I don't think that these streams would be fair. It wouldn't accurately represent what a real DM goes through, what you guys go through, which is not being sure what the heck you're doing, but it's Saturday morning, the peeps are going to come over, I need to get ready, right? Okay, so we have all these sort of little caverns and holes that have formed in the stone, and she uses them as, you know, as entrances and as exits and places to store prey and stuff like that. But the primary entrance, especially where human beings sort of come to supplicate and worship DURATHRAX, is right down here. Okay, so now this is interesting because it gives us some of our first bullets and some of our first key concepts for the boss fight. Because as many of you guys know, with my theory, that's just too small. That's no fun. A big part of what I believe makes a dragon fight really, really work is the environment, not just the dragon. The dragons use their environments. They're notorious for it. Their lair is critical, and that's even why I think lair actions have been added to the D&D canon. But let's get into some monkey pants here, and let's think about some pieces. We've got the road, right? We've got one. We've got, this is sort of the temple or the shrine or the great door, right? And then we have the pinnacles, and then we have the south peak and the north peak. And that, I think, is probably all I'm going to do. That is the lair. So we need to design those parts to understand this lair. Now we might say something like the south tower is really just sort of a more dormant part of her lair. This is the north tower, and the north tower is like her nest. Okay, so we don't have to have both of them be her nest. But you see what I mean? I don't even know what these are going to be yet. That's not the point. The point is that I give myself some things to do. This is the temple. And why is there a number 4 just floating up in space? Oh, the pinnacles, right. So if you guys saw a video I did way back when about Zymer in the Underdark, they were, or not Zymer, but Stills in the Underdark, he also had to deal with DURATHRAX in a set of pinnacles. So even if you were here and you were in the Underdark, you can still have pinnacles that are underground. And yeah, I don't have a number 3. I don't have a stinking number 3, guys. That's when you know you're up early. That's too funny. There we go. Thanks. You guys really, you guys are looking out for me. Looking out for a brother. What are your tips on making players who are playing spellcasters less OP? Well, be sure you use Spellburn. Be sure you use Spellburn. It is the key balancing component, or controlling or valving component for magic use in ICRPG. So make sure you're using that. Brush up on those Spellburn rules. Okay. Yeah, it does look like a dragon head, like roaring upward. Okay, again, let's just go with it, right? Peter Cameron, thanks. Let's just go with it. So there's also these rock formations where this thing broke like this. These sort of leftover crags. So we get this tooth effect. Any tips on what to do if you make your world too large? Yeah, don't do that. That's bad. The tip would be just don't worry about it. Just let it go. Let it disappear. If it's too big, it's gone. Just toss it. Focus on the present moment. Make the present moment awesome, and eventually a larger world will form in your game. But if you try to make a massive one up front, you can get yourself into a real pickle. But experienced DMs, Lord knows, can make big sandbox worlds and do a brilliant job at it. So everybody's different. Okay. So they're running with it. So we do have this sort of roaring dragon head feel. The word maw is totally off limits to me, by the way. I can't use that word. Okay. Either way, I have my Ghiblies. My Ghiblies are 1 through 5 here. Okay, and again, if this is the coolest idea, isn't necessarily what I like to pound home in the streams. It's the way that I'm getting where I'm getting. It's being creative by allowing myself to play and follow my nose and just to pursue whatever happens to happen. Okay. Now I'm really tempted to do a piece of art right now because I want to art this lair. So I would guess I could pose it to you guys. Oh, that poster is a one of a kind, my brother. That's made by David Ism. Would you guys like to? Should I like art out the lair, or should I just keep going with the design? It's kind of two fun options that I have right now. Because I would love to have a nice piece of art to show this mountain and to show its approach. I think it's critical to the overall tone of what's going to happen. Okay, well, what feels right? Draw it? Okay, so that's several things for draw it. Okay, cool. Art, dude. All right, great. Thanks. Thanks for sounding off, folks. So let's just go on and let's just sort of, let's play quickly, okay? And I think I'm going to switch to a rougher look so that I can kind of play with paint. And I want to do these kind of grim sky tones. So I have to start somewhere, so I'm just going to start here. And I'm going to paint on this part of the canvas so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just getting a base tone here. And then get this tone in here, maybe mix some of these colors like you guys know that I do. Okay, there we go. The upper portion of the sky is always a little brighter than the lower portion. And now we're going to start getting into some of these clouds. So I think something interesting is already happening too, which is that we're not really visualizing DURATHRAX dwelling in like a lava or jungle environment. And this is all completely accidental, right? We're visualizing her finding her lair in like almost like a Patagonia type environment, right? Which is a cold, remote, rocky, barren place. Not like lava and smoke and smoldering gibbledy-bibs. And that's interesting to me already. And so I think, just once again, you know, the idea here isn't what the coolest idea can be. It's what happens when you allow yourself to just go with it. Just go with the flow. Okay, so now clouds get smaller as they approach the horizon because you're seeing further into the distance. And so this is one trick you can do, is just, you can have your lighter colors reduce in scale as they go back like this. See that? And so what you get is this feeling of the clouds going back. And then you can integrate some of your darker color into your sky to get, and do it sort of on the bottoms of blobs. And you can get a feeling of, just a rough feeling of some cloud cover. Okay, that's all I need. That's enough. There's my background. Bang. It's just that simple. Now we need to do Broken Mountain. Or Broken Peak. Broken Peak. Remember, we're not doing DURATHRAX per se. We're doing Broken Peak. So, in a sky environment, especially daylight, things that are closer to you are darker because the atmosphere lightens the shapes. Okay, and then here's Broken Peak. So I'm just going to get a really large brush now and just sort of play here. You know, one thing I always loved about Bob Ross is that he would do these great background layers, you know, skies or woods or rivers or whatever, and then just happily, freely, with no damage or baggage, he would just paint right over them with his next layer of subject matter, and just no regrets, no looking back. Just wonderful. Great attitude toward creativity. I mean, the dude had a great attitude about a lot of stuff. Cool dude. My man. My man. One of my all-time heroes. Okay, so these are just splits. I don't know why I do these. I just do them in my art sometimes. Okay. There it is. Now we need to kind of get in there just a little more. So you notice I'm working here just on one layer. So if I want to make a shape really sharp, I don't erase at all. I just take the nearest background color and then cut or paint into a foreground shape. And that's how you create little cuts. So I know painting flat can be a little bit scary because there's kind of no way back. If you really screw up, you need to paint your way backward. But on the other hand, it gives you such an upfront way to work with color. You're not switching through layers and wondering what you're doing and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, Simon, if I agree. If I know casters, though, they like to be powerful, that they enjoy that sensation. And so even, you know, after a good tribunal talk, they'll still want to push their magic to the limit. And that's really, you know, what Spellburn was invented for, is to mitigate that instinct. Okay, so I'm doing the inside of one of the sides of Broken Peak here. See that? Just grab a quick highlight color. And now we could do this. Which do you like? Which do you like? Which do you like? I like that one. So the light is now coming from here, right? That's where the light is coming from. And so what I want to do is play with that. I want to embrace that. And what I do is I take a slight highlight color and I start to do some crags, just like this. And there you go. So see, now the mountain is lit from that side. And you can just play. And we're going to put this little entrance. Remember, the shrine is, the temple is in here. It's like this Gothic door that you can see from the distance. And then just very slight, you can see this little set of steps. Like you get a hint of architecture way up there in the mountains. And then there's this road. And the road kind of disappears behind a little slope and then kind of comes on down, and then you can't see it again. And now this gets a little too steep down here and it doesn't feel believable to me, so I'm kind of going to do this. There we go. I'm going to shrink this door. It's throwing the scale off for me a little bit. So there we go. Nice, that's cool. Okay, so now my colors feel really static on me because I kind of just chose one tone. So one thing that I'll do is get myself a warmer tone right here, get it on overlay, and just throw it into the sky like this. And it's not the right color, but what it's going to do is just create a bunch of colors I may not have created with my own hands that can be interesting. But you know, yellow just isn't going to cut it. That's a little more interesting. Tomorrow comes today. And it's just all a little vile, but I do like this slight egg tone here. And then I can take its own color and then reinforce it like this, and then I get some, there we go, get some gloom. And this gloom is going to give me the information I need to now capture some darker colors and get some of this immediate foreground going. See that? It's like that overlay doesn't really make the coolest, best colors, but it gives me colors that then I can paint with. Because overlay uses all this crazy weird Photoshop math that doesn't make any sense. So you don't necessarily want the colors it creates in a gradient, but you can use them in a discrete fashion to discover colors that your brain probably would have never been able to comprehend. At least not when you're at my skill level. Okay, so we get a lot of little implications here through this painting, which is sort of, another one is kind of like how far it is to go out there. It feels really far all of a sudden. Like you have to go all, you know, through this like almost Emmon Wheel type environment. I don't even know what you guys are talking about now. You lost me. It got too crazy. So now I'm doing kind of what I mentioned earlier, just in a little more detail, which is if you find a blob of lighter color, take a darker color and trace out its bottom, or where you might imagine its bottom to be, and you get this look of clouds with heavy bottoms, or heavy shadowed underneath portions. And just being real gentle here with what I'm doing. So I'm not doing a ton of color. Here we go. Cool. So we're starting to get there. Now remember too, she has these like openings and stuff, right? All these holes, and so let's do all that stuff. You know, you can also use a darker color to give yourself some actual specific outlines finally. So if you're starting liking how some of your rock formations look, get a darker color and get these just little hints of lines here to get everything to start to become specific. See that? And even though a lot of these brush strokes were just kind of random, if you pretend like they're intentional, you get this feeling of shape starting to emerge. You're reinforcing your own accidents. Okay. So now, yeah, here's some of these holes and caves. And then I'll grab a nearby color and just cut into a little bit and just kind of play. You know, not really knowing what I'm doing. Now, again, just working on specificity here. You know, always then searching around for that next nice little subtle color change, which is like mixing and then grabbing a color you just mixed, and you're always getting a slightly different color and just wandering and wandering with your colors. Now I'm getting a little bit stuck in like this monochrome look, right? Everything has like this periwinkle monochrome to it. So at some point I'm going to need to play with that a little better. I'm kind of trapped in this one periwinkle color right now. It's kind of frustrating. But pursuant to my message to all of you guys, I can't really stop to be judging myself on that front yet. Too busy still just getting the fundamentals. So I just need to keep believing. Here's just some nice fluffy white highlights on the clouds. Just happy little accidents, that's right. So let's go back and see if we can't get some, you know, here's another method that you can do to try to find yourself some color wanderings. Get yourself a crazy lasso selection that doesn't make any sense, like that. So I kind of grab the foreground, and then I can just slightly hue shift it like that. There you go. And then I can slightly hue shift it here. These are just different hue tools that you can use. There we go. Now we bring a little bit of that greenish tone in, and then I want to get this darker color, get some specifics, right, by doing a couple lines. This really makes everything look intentional. See that? And now I think it's tree time. So just because DURATHRAX is up here doesn't mean it's just completely barren. You know, I need some trees in my life. So I think we need a very subdued pine color here, and it's going to be dark. You know, pine trees, especially from a distance, can be very dark. Really, really dark green from a distance. So there we go. Start to feel that color out. And that's a pretty good feeling to the color. So now I just need to do, oops, there we go. Okay, so these are trees. Remember, part of the magic here is just going to be the implication of trees. You don't need to draw 30,000 trees to get the message across. And some of your trees can just be, you know, and aren't these even trees? These are just like vertical lines that I'm drawing, but that's okay, because just hang on, just patience. Let's just love ourselves while this evolves. Okay. So just getting some green, getting some fuzz to things, just playing. And now what I want to do is make sure that the viewer or the eye knows what I'm trying to communicate here, which is trees, that they hear me. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go down to a much smaller brush, and it is hot as hell today, you guys. It is going to be so muggy and hot. My God, it's so weird. We need rain. I am a Washington amphibian. Amphibian. The amphibian was denied a bank loan. Okay, so we go here. And there you go. You just do these side-to-side wiggles with a relatively small brush. See that? And just let your hand just play. You don't have to do them all the same. You don't have to do anything consistent in any form. Consistency is the bastion of the uncreative. Marcel Proust. So just, some of them can be diagonal, some of them can be vertical. You can just, you're just playing. You're literally just letting your hand just goof off. Always just returning to this idea of a zigzag. And see, sometimes I'll put a little stick in there, and then like that, put a stick. Ooh, this one's close to the camera. Look at that. Okay, then go back to a smaller brush. I just got a little crazy there for a second. Do some trunks. Okay, now we're coming in here. This is really far off, so you're not going to see individual trees very much. You just get an impression of color. There you go. And there ye be. There's your foreground. DURATHRAX needs some happy little trees in his life. Okay, so we're just about where I'm kind of, you know, I guess you could say satisfied in that I just wanted a bit more detailed or realized view of the mountain where the lair would be. So maybe I could show this to players when the time came. But something that's just a little more, you know, realized is the word I would say. And then I'm just going to come in here with some white overlay. I'm just going to blow this out like that. And you can do all kinds of things, you know. You can, wah, ah, you know, you can play around with the colors all you want, but I'm feeling pretty good. This is kind of a sense of this road, how big it is, the distance through these mountains, finding a way there, and I'm feeling pretty good about sending my message to my players with this piece. And that's the real goal, not just to make some wondrous landscape, just to make some basic kind of stuff. Okay, and we know our parts and pieces. They're on our previous diagram. They're right here. So we probably don't need to think those out. Have you got Scottish ancestors? If I do, they predate my known ancestors. My known ancestors are the sons of Duke William. So my family was first given a last name in the Battle of Hastings in 1066. So technically that makes me a Norman, French Viking. But hey, don't we all have a few Scottish ancestors, right? Okay. So, let's talk about the first few set of pieces. Okay, and we're going to kind of tighten up our game a little bit here. How? I'll tell you how. We're gonna bring home some of these pieces. Okay, so first we have the road. Next we have temple, pinnacles, north and south, right? Temple, pinnacles, and we're going to save the north and south. And look, here's another little handy thing that you can get out of a you know, sort of more advanced piece of art. I'm going to grab this. We're going to hide that, and now we're going to sort of cut off the sky. Oops. Check it out. I don't know if you can see my lasso flinging along here, but I'm cutting out the mountain. Just freehanding it. There we go. Cut the sky off. There we go. Padouche. Then we're just going to slam the contrast. We're going to kind of make this into a diagram rather than a painting. Like that. Something like, where's what I'm looking for? There we go. I'm going to pull the color out. Let's go back to our ICRPG style brush. And I'm halfway through things, so I'm going way too slow here, guys. Okay, so we go toot 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 toot. So now I get an actual silhouette of this environment, and then I go again. There we go. And this gives me a diagrammatic version of the lair. See that? And it matches the art quite well. So if the players have seen the art and then they see this, they get that nice reinforcement of what's where and how the structure, you know, works and what's going on. Okay. I keep putting things on here. My brain is just so heat-addled right now. There we go. Tomorrow comes today. So this is for the next... Wait, no, that goes there. I hate layers, to be totally honest. There we go. All right. Finally got our act together. Okay, now let's just quickly now get into some gameplay stuff. All right? Yo do 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 Tomorrow comes today. Okay, so as far as the road goes, here we are down here. I think we need, let's just do, once again, just setting myself some buckets to fill, okay? We need 3 things. I think we need DURATHRAX's spies. So as you approach on the road, DURATHRAX has these like winged creatures as well as like humanoids that patrol the forests and the mountains nearby and look for intruders, right? And there could be anything. They could be kobolds, they could be bats, they could be wolf-like creatures, they can be whatever you feel like is going to work in your campaign better, because I don't want to tell you what's going to be best. I just want to show you the idea and method for finding the idea. So first of all, DURATHRAX has her spies are all around, and this could be a small encounter. This could help to wear them down. Yeah, it could be gargoyles, could be any, whatever you guys feel for your adventure is going to feel right. Okay, so then after the spies, we have this the crumbling climb, we could call it, or perilous climb. And that's like going up this road. And remember, this is all just the road. And then finally, be prepared as the DM for foraging. So you want your party to be able to forage on their way up. And this could mean finding like some skeletons of other people who have come and gone from here. It could mean looking for food. It could mean hunting along here. It could be tracking. It could be whatever. But you just want to be prepared so that if players say, hey, we want to do this, that, or the other thing, you have some data on the area. Some foraging data. Okay, so next, let's go up to the temple. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and run with I'm looking at the thing and I've already forgotten, but who said gargoyles? Oh, Ben Weinberg. Yeah. So let's take that and run. Okay. There are 2 gargoyles who are like draconic. And then I would also like you to meet the scarecrow. And I'll talk about that in a second. And then, what about the temple? This is like where sacrifices happen. So, when kingdoms have to supplicate DURATHRAX to, sate her appetite, to get her to stop ruining their kingdom over and over, they bring their princesses or the daughters of the emperor. They bring them here to sacrifice them to DURATHRAX to buy 100 years more of peace, right? And so in front of the temple, and this is probably a map we need, there is this big pole with manacles on it that's been burned to a crisp time and time again. And yeah, the lottery from Dragon Slayer, exactly. And you need to tell this tale. And so that's something that you're going to need as a bullet point in your DM's notes. Not necessarily because it's going to be a big battle or anything. You're just still busy telling the tale of DURATHRAX. You're telling this story of what has happened here, who this is, constantly reinforcing that the players need to end this, that it is worth risking their lives to stop this evil force that dwells in Broken Peak. Okay, so then finally we go to the pinnacles, and this is a wildly different space. I think the pinnacles are probably the end of the boss fight. And this is where DURATHRAX flies, and we're going to actually add this to the art real quick. And this is the highest danger level. I mean, falling off of here or fighting her while she's flying and stuff, the danger is just extreme. And then also DURATHRAX, I'm going to call it supreme, is supreme here. Because fighting a dragon in a very high altitude, narrow, kind of rocky environment with clouds all around in their element is the worst idea. So you want to corner them in a lair where they can't fly and use breath weapons and have all this mobility. So up here, she is going to be incredibly deadly. And just to really, bring it home, let's find a good color. I think it's that color, but with a little bit more shadow and a little less blue. Just a little more. Okay. And there, I almost drew it on accident. You see that? Just looking for her form right now, and we're starting to get into now some of the bigger questions, which are, what is her form? And that's going to be our next task. Or at least one of the next ones. So as you can see, this is like a pretty big, like, interdisciplinary, multidiscipline kind of creative task, is creating a dragon. And everything that goes with it. Not just, well, when game night comes, I'll look up dragon in the monster manual and everything's going to work out. You can do that too. There we go. There she is. So she's got some neck on her there. Tomorrow comes today. Now she is way in the distance, so it should be just a hint. And then that's too big, so I'm just going to do this. Check it out. Total cheat. What do my buttons do? What do my buttons do, guys? There, she's only that big. Way in the distance. Okay. Yeah, so I like kind of where you're going there, Ben, it isn't necessarily a matter of finding what the cool story is going to be. It's that these bullets lead you places, or even to lead you to ask questions. And therein lies your solution to the creative challenge at hand. So not necessarily worried about what the best idea is, just that ideas begin to occur. Okay. There she is. Crazy. It's a little bit counter to normally a lot of the things I say, but you can also do a really dark sky too, like. See what I mean? The gloom and the fear of it all is just like, dear Lord, this is crazy. This is crazy. Yeah, I like the washed out one. Okay, anyway, just playing. Okay, so here we've already got some thoughts about how the parts and pieces could work. Yeah, the Duragosa video, exactly. Okay. So now we can move to thinking about what DURATHRAX really looks like herself. The scarecrow, by the way, is something I didn't mention, which is that I always imagine DURATHRAX having multiple forms, and one of them is this like living scarecrow creature. I know that's weird, but there it is. And so, we might want to portray that. We might want to think into that. But this is the joy here, is that we have all this freedom. We can work on whatever part and piece we want. Now tonight, it's like 9 a.m. This morning started because Desert King was asking me about a monster mind for DURATHRAX. and that's what I wanted to run with. And so I think that's probably where we should go next, is not necessarily just thinking about what, you know, DURATHRAX is herself, but what could be the overall fight design, okay? So let's get into this. I don't think we need this quite yet. We're not doing a dungeon map quite yet. Okay, here we go. Okay. This is the battle. Tomorrow comes today. Whew. Okay, so still sipping some coffee down. So first of all, I have a lot of pieces to figure out here. I've got when they arrive, how they sort of meet DURATHRAX, and then fight. I think we're going to assume, for the sake of argument and for the sake of design, that this cannot be avoided. They cannot reason with her. The fact they're even here is appalling to her, and she's enraged that they would even walk up here. Yes, Cameron, my DURATHRAX is this almost infinite dragon creature. It's in multiple timelines, multiple eras and epochs. It's saw the world form and it'll see the world end. It's like this incredibly powerful entity that takes physical form and takes different physical forms, which it probably could be part of this. And so for Arrive, I would like a few options here. So we've got the temple. We've got sort of sneaking. We've got flight. So really, I'm answering several questions here with one method, which is you're kind of just saying, go look at the map. So how players arrive is completely up to them. You don't need to, you know, plot it. But you do you want to have a good command of the space, so that no matter what they do, you'll be able to adapt. And so I see, you know, three main ways that they could approach to arrive here. But, you know, players crazy, and they might come up with something you didn't anticipate. Okay, so then meet, we have a few options. What might happen? She might, let me see, let's do a color. She might return from a hunt. So she has like a stag, like a giant, like matriarch of the forest, like this huge stag in her jaws that she returns to feed upon. She might be slumbering or sort of dormant. There might be a ritual at the temple that she is presiding over, and humans are, you know, supplicating her. Or finally, she might know. She knows. She knows that these guys are approaching. She has her spies, and she also can see for miles and miles and miles. So if the players have just walked right up, she just knows, and she's like greeting them almost, just like, welcome to your death. You know, oh, hey, Charles, thanks, man. Okay, so now there might be other ways that they can meet her initially, and you know what that conversation might be. But this is my final note, is that I just realized by saying that is like, what do I say? I'll just call it dialogue, and this could be just writing down a few lines for her so that I don't have to make them up on the spot. Sorry, my brain's a little slow today, guys. Jeez. I'm just kind of looking into the abyss. All right. Next, the fight itself. Chuck, hey, thanks, dude. Always appreciate them tippers. Get myself some beers with them beer monies. With all the tunnels Hank drew initially, I imagine her using her breath weapon in a tunnel to create illusory roars. Whoa, it's kind of like throwing your voice, but throwing your fire voice. So we'll get to all that. We got another about half an hour to go, so we'll start thinking about some of that stuff. So for the fight, I would like to say she uses the tunnels, just like we just talked about. Flight, she will use the pinnacles because that's where she's the hardest to beat. So if she starts getting injured, she'll go there. And then we could say she's sort of bound to the temple. This is going to be the best way to fight her. If the players can figure out a way to bind her to the temple space where she's, sort of out in the open but on the ground and can be battled, then that would be, extremely to the player's advantage. And so you don't necessarily want to script this to them, but maybe they have an NPC with them that can talk about this. Maybe there are hints in the environment that can lead to that. I don't know yet. All I know is I'm just thinking through the ideas. Exactly how I'm going to execute all this, I have no idea. I'm just sort of waxing. Okay, and then Desert King, thanks, dude. Incorporate these tags in the lair. Okay, so then this almost comes to our next piece, which is the lair. Okay, we're going to take Cam's lead here, and we're going to say keywords are caustic, death, shallow water, and fog. Okay, so let's think about what these mean. And I'm going to use some blue. I'm going to use some pink, dark pink. Okay. So fog, I don't know what, but she controls it. Okay, then shallow water, we have like the lake of eels. And I just imagine this wide lake, maybe it's inside the North Tower, where there's just all these eels, and she like lays in it and they clean her. All right, death I think is one of her breath weapons. It's this cold life stealer. And then caustic I think is like so caustic being a corrosive or acidic sort of presence. And I think this is what the there's a spring of this stuff, and it coats the stones, and it's indoors. So once you're indoors inside Broken Peak, everything has this sort of layer of acidic water on it. And then also, I mean, why not? Let's just dive in. Acid for blood. So the eels, the spies, all of basically the evil forces that are associated with DURATHRAX have acidic blood. And we can play with it. So at the lower level, the acid is extremely minimal. It's not a big deal. But DURATHRAX herself, if she's cut or spills blood, it's like extremely acidic. Like it's almost like molecular acid, where it just never stops being acidic. It just will eat a hole down to the mantle of the earth. Yeah, or she could even create the fog by blasting water with her breath weapon. There's all kinds of possibilities. I think what's more interesting here is we're just getting into it. But I like the idea that she actually conjures the fog and like recedes into it and vanishes or flies up into it. Not that it's a natural phenomenon. It is, it is a force she controls. Okay, interesting. This is all interesting. I'm just trying to take it in here. So let's just keep going in the ways that these are, and let's get right to the monster mind before we run out of time here. Okay, what do we got? So we need to encapsulate a lot with her monster mind. And I like kind of a strong red here. So Wow. How do we quite... So I think like engaged is her first state check. Is she engaged with the players? So if not, then she will degrade. She'll degrade them. She will confuse them and conjure fog. For reasons that your campaign may indicate eventually, maybe she's not quite ready to engage them or ready to fight. And so she goes into this state where she talks to them, basically. Maybe they even have something she wants, and she's not ready to melt them yet. So then, once you're done with that, this goes back to engaged, right? So you have your first little feedback loop as far as sort of an AI chart goes. So it's very simple state. You know, has she started fighting yet? If not, have an idea for her talking, her confusing them, which could be like changing the terrain illusorily. It could be changing her form into a human form, and it could be bringing this fog, and she's like gliding in the fog silently and stuff like that. Okay, so you have a few moments that can build to the engagement. Meanwhile, on the yes side, this is going to be most of our chart. Okay, so if she's engaged, I think the first check is going to be, is she in her lair? Okay, so if she's in her lair, then I think your check is like, is she on the attack? Okay, so if she's not on the attack, then she returns to the lake. The eels play into the story, both as a thing that must be fought as well as something that regenerates her. So I'm just going to put that in note, regenerate. And then also I think she creates like tremors. The mountain is shaking and rocks are falling and stuff like that because she is in her she's licking her wounds, or she's hiding, or you know, she's healing basically. She's not just assaulting. Okay, and then you finally go to a check of like, is she full? We'll just call it full HP for the lack of a cooler term. And then if yes, she's enraged again, and you go up here. If no, you go here. See how that works? So now you don't necessarily need to follow this entire chart word for word, but what it does is it gives you a place to have reference so that you're not just figuring it out on the fly. That's what you're a little bit trying to avoid, so that you have grounding when you're playing. Okay, is she on the attack? Now here's probably the more interesting part, and this is when she's in her lair and she's on the attack. So I think the first one is to... So her lair is a series of tunnels. So she's going to use cover for starters. Then she uses breath weapon, and that can be whatever you like. Once the breath weapon has softened the group, she goes in for sort of what would you call it, conventional combat, which is like bite and tail. Then she casts a spell. Then she uses a lair action. And you can either get those lair actions out of the book, or you can invent them. And then she repeats. See, so similar thing. Now, you can do other things. Other things can happen. You're not trapped in here. It's not like I am using an AI chart. I must do what it says even though it makes no sense. No, you're not that person. You're cool. You're creative. This is just giving you a guide on what she might do next. Like, okay, so she casts Charm Person. One of the players now thinks that, like, DURATHRAX actually isn't the bad guy. Like, maybe they're misguided to be hunting her in the first place. Oh my god. So her spell was successful. Her lair action might be like a collapse of rocks. The characters are all stunned and they're on their heels and they need to heal and stuff. And then when the dust clears and they look around, she's gone. I got all that just from my little chart because she casts her spell, she uses a lair action, and then she pulls back into cover in her tunnels, and you can hear her like moving, you know, but you don't see her because she's using cover. Where is she? Then she pops out, right? Hell yeah. Okay, so now if she's not in the lair, we need to consider this. Is she in the temple or the pinnacles? These are our only options, right? Now remember, the temple and the pinnacles are only kind of interesting and useful if the players know about them. So there might be an NPC or there might be lore about DURATHRAX that says that these locations exist, because you want your players to have at least enough information where they can tactically, strategically use that information. If it's just everything's a surprise, then they're just, you know, they're just riding the moment. So maybe they know that she has this temple that she doesn't like to battle in, that there's a weakness there. Maybe they know that when she's on the pinnacle, she's almost undefeatable, and so on and so forth. So if she's in the temple, then is she on the attack? And if no, she goes to the lair. If yes, then we have a new sort of sequence, and it starts with breath weapon. Then it goes to hurl stones, because you're outdoors now. Then it goes to fly and wing buffet. And if you guys see my Duragosa video, this is a lot of similar stuff. And then it comes to slam, then spell, then gargoyles. She like lets them take a turn or uses them in some way, and repeat. And remember too, repeating here can be really useful because it can help train players on what to expect next. And that's not very realistic, you know, it's very meta and very video gamey, but it gives those players, again, it gives them tactical utility. And figuring out tactical utility is a big part of the fun here, and so you don't want to deny them that fun, even though it's totally not realistic. You know, the enemy constantly adapts their plans. They don't stick to a chart. Okay, so if she's amongst the pinnacles, again, we have to ask the same question. Is she on the attack? If no, then she doesn't go to the lair here. She glides. And breath weapon. Now this is scary because that's not on the attack. This is when she's either talking to the players or recovering, resting, whatever. She does breath weapon, and let's do a recover. And then repeat. Okay? If she is on the attack in the pinnacles, you're in trouble. She does a flyby, and we'll call it a flyby tail. So she just rips by. She cannot, it's basically save, and she like knocks huge chunks of the pinnacles off with her tail. Like, it's mega dangerous. She conjures fog. So you don't even know where she's coming from next. After conjure fog, she'll do the spell, so she goes into this sort of confusion state. And then as the spell takes, she'll come in for the breath weapon, and she'll hover like DURATHRAX, or like Vermithrax, sorry, from Dragon Slayer. And she does not land when she's fighting in the pinnacles, so there's no conventional phase. And then the last one, I think it would be something like toss is what we'll call it. And this is where she attempts to knock a hero or grab a hero in her talons and drop them off this precipitous height. And then we have a repeat. So a cool one could be, and this is just emerging from my chart, is that she goes for a toss. So she grabs one of the heroes. He misses the save, grabs the hero, then she glides up in a big bank and she's just going to let go of him. But instead, for style points, she goes up and banks and then comes back around, and she, because of this arrow here, she comes back to fly by, and as she's flying by, she opens her claws, and you get to see that hero go, ah, as she's going with the tail on the mountain and everything, just like, holy shit. Nar, nar. Okay, so we at least have enough here that a lot of ideas are happening, and if I get too much going, I won't be able to process it all. It's already a lot to look at, and I'm just going to stop. And we've also been working on the problem here for an hour. So it's probably time to get a look at DURATHRAX herself. And hello, everybody. We've got, once again, more than 100 people tuning in. Great to have you guys. The last piece I would really like to get up on the board here, sort of as a don't forget, Hankerin, don't forget this mode she can do, Scarecrow. Scarecrow is DURATHRAX's humanoid form that she takes, and it is this sort of like, literally like a human shape that's like on the end of a pole, and it's not alive, but it can talk. And understanding how that could be part of her power and part of her weakness and part of how the story is told, that is really interesting to me. And when does she use the Scarecrow? I think she uses the Scarecrow when she returns to the lake, right here. So this is not combat. Can talk. Recovers. So anytime she takes Scarecrow form, she fully recovers. The Scarecrow can be destroyed. And that just angers DURATHRAX. And this also could be a meeting. So remember earlier we talked about meeting her? They could meet her in Scarecrow form, and they talk to her in that form. And then as that conversation evolves into conflict, she could become enraged and change from her Scarecrow form into her full form. Yeah, exactly. Pyronide, you've got it. There you go. So you're starting to run with it. It's sort of her messenger or her harbinger, but in fact it's her. And that revelation, this is something you need to keep secret from your players, obviously. That revelation would be a big part of the fun. Brought me out of DM burnout. Hey, Renegade, remember, there's only one true way to fix DM burnout. Quit DMing. Just stop. This is supposed to be fun, not a job, so just take a break. Okay. All right, cool. So we are now trucking along, and we're ready for maybe what some may consider the funnest part, which let's get a look at DURATHRAX herself. And I'm going to do this one kind of ICRPG style because I would like to have, well, you know, I don't want to though. I kind of want to get painty with it, so I'm just going to do it. I don't care. But I'm going to do it in such a way that I can make a standee out of this. I can do a little print and play miniature. Okay. So I think, but hey, I appreciate that anyway, Renegade. Yeah, rock on, man. Yeah, rock on. Casey, did you ask a stupid question? All these options go to varying difficulties. Players have better and worse outcomes of their tactical choices and blunders. No. Casey, I would actually recommend that you take each one of these components. Let's take a look again. Where is it? There we go. Oh. Okay. Take each one of these components, stat them up in ways that are 10 times what you would consider balanced for your players. 10 times. And I would also consider, don't even put necessarily numeric damage on everything. So if you fail a save, a high DC save on a breath weapon, you drop to 0. Like, absolutely brutal danger levels so that characters need to get inventive about how to fight her. They don't just pin her to the ground and tank and spank. Be absolutely brutal. Do not adjust her difficulty. Be gnarly. How would you paint a dark colored drow in an underground background? I feel like it's sort of a trick question. Well, you see their gear and then you see a couple little eyes glowing in the dark. Something like that. Okay, so we're going to do basically a standee for her. So how do I do this? I don't know. I just start. Now I kind of know in my mind a little bit what kind of anatomy she has. But I don't want to do a humanoid pose, so I think I'm going to get her down. There we go. What the hell am I drawing right now? I don't really know. But as usual, the most important thing is to let myself play into it rather than ask a bunch of brutal questions like, are these the right shapes? Those questions are hard to answer. Whoops. Sometimes I click the button and I don't want to click the button. Sometimes I click the button and I don't want to click the button. Here we go. So we're just kind of back into Bob Ross mode here. Not insanely talkative this morning, folks, so I hope you're all just chilling with me that style. You know, that chill Saturday morning jam that you can get into sometimes. You don't want to go do all your stuff. You just want to like go in the living room, watch a movie. She's got like French fries on her spine. And I'll get into more detail on everything. I'm just playing. Just playing around. A stereotypical tail barb. Tomorrow comes today. I'm clicking things all wrong here. Oop. I'm clicking things all wrong, guys. I don't know how to click things. Tomorrow comes today. Okay. Alright, so here's kind of a piece of body here with its boiling oil breath weapon. Godzilla-sized back spines. Whoa, that's a concept. At least 3 of them. Like this style, where she gathers all her breath power. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so we'll just keep working with it. Right now, I'm sorry if my my little camera bubble is. Thing with dragons is you always got to make all this room for these stinking wings because they get so dang big. God dang, it's hot. It is going to be hot today. It's going to be like really effing hot today. Okay, so this is her swooping inward. And I'm going to do a little bit, you know, of some of the tricks I do with my human characters too, so I'll show you in just a second. By the way, when you see my brush settings coming up, like I'm not doing any kind of cool adjustments or anything. That is literally me accidentally pushing the button, so don't think I know something you don't. Okay, here's the rear wing. They say people vanish in the night. I know nothing. Okay, so on a human character, right now I'd be thinking to myself, you know, some of the life is a little bit missing. I'm not quite feeling her, what she's looking at. Like, I like to feel that eye line in a character or in a monster. I'm kind of not feeling it. So, let's see here. Could, like, you know, check it out and just grab the head like this, and you can flip it. And see what this does for the piece. You know, can I get away with this is kind of what I'm asking myself. So it doesn't feel quite right, so it's like, is she, you know, what's going on? What's she doing here? That would make a cool ring if you stopped right. Oh, a ring. Yep. I don't play MTG, but I play all kinds of little games. I just don't play Magic. I did in the vanilla days, but I feel it's just gotten too complicated. And some of the tone around Magic just got a little too competitive and intense for me. You know, I think I'm doing all right. Maybe she's like up here. That's kind of interesting. Kind of run with this neck idea. Remember, because the view from the mountains, she had a lot of neck going on. So then when you start to see the head, you start to see like some of the scale on these things starts to change, like the Godzilla back and the spines and all sorts of starts to change. And now I just can't help it because I love doing this part of a piece. I just got to get in here and do this part. It's one of my favorite parts. Okay. And again, you know, it's a crazy thing doing this kind of stuff. I use a Cintiq, Mike. Pyronide, I would just count those as attacks, not separate dragons, because I think you might start going a little crazy with that much to think about. You know, and you could just, you know, run some Tiamat practice sessions to get into that stuff. If you've never run Tiamat, it's really worth a practice session by yourself in your lair. Oh yeah, so what I was saying is, like, I'm definitely in that state right now where, and this is a big part of doing art, is you just never know if it's going to come out like in a way that you're proud of. And so you just kind of keep going and just sort of hoping. But, you know, my constant message is how important it is to just play and get through that phase. That is the hardest phase in all of art, is starting to think maybe this isn't going to turn out. That you've made some errors, or you don't have the skill in such a way that it's never going to come together. And that's just pessimism talking. You're better than that. It will work out if you just enjoy and just keep a positive attitude. Okay, so now we're starting to see her evolve. Can she be clutching a wizard? Absolutely. We're not there yet. I'm still searching for her personality. I need to make sure her personality is covered. So just grabbing some gray here. And as you can see, I'm not painting at extreme high resolution like I would on some of my commissions and stuff. This is 100% right here. So this would be 200%. But we'll go in super close anyway. Hank, you should check out the dragons from Colville's Kickstarter. They're unique and a great inspiration. I'll get there when it comes out. That Kickstarter has plenty of attention on its own. So I'm gonna let that be in cooldown for a little while, to be honest. Okay. So now I'm just looking for some key highlights on this head that are going to give me her personality, her expression. You know, who she is. Who is DURATHRAX, right? This is like a critical question. And I see her as this, like, you know, relic level dragon. Like, she's almost, you know, an artifact of sorts. She's so old. So, you know, that's why I'm painting. You can see the pixels, and that's how close up I'm painting. Normally I wouldn't do that, but I'm just having fun, so why not? And, you know, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope y'all having fun. It's just me here, just doing what I do. Hopefully this heat will let up today and my dog will stop itching. It's one itchy dog. A greenish purple, like an iridescent color. Okay. Well, I think she's got some veining too, some like some undersurface. And so if we want to do, I don't greenish or purple. Yeah. Well, I've always done an iridescent greenish with her. Purple can be a hard color to control, to be honest. It wants to take things over. So one thing that can, just like putting a small head on a monster can make it look bigger, putting small eyes on a head can then in turn give you a look that's like the head is really big. So see, even my eye is even small inside my eye socket. See that? So there you get that feeling of how big she is. And we'll do some little human characters too, like in the chat. So now, you guys don't see me do this too often, but just doing some really small little line work here with a small brush. Because I want to get this, it's really important to me that I capture sort of what she's like all these markings and scarrings and stuff on her surface. See what I'm doing? So I'm kind of like working with a gray as a highlight, a black as a base tone, and then you return to your black and cut into your gray to get these striations and wrinkles and other shapes. So you're working with a very simple set of colors, but you're alternating. And then we're going to get into some of the crazier stuff. Like every once in a while she has one of these, like a spiral cut into her. Now a spiral is a silly, tropey shape, but it can be very effective for conveying magic or conveying like age in a thing. Because I think there's a common sort of psychological association between a spiral being cut into a thing and it being ancient. And I think it probably comes from like the standing stones of Northern Europe. Okay, there's her nostril. So I need a little bit of a lump to sort of hold her nostril like that. And then to drive the nostril home, you do a couple of these little lines. And we're going to do other shades of gray too. It's just we're getting started. Okay, next, I left these cuts in place earlier just to get my feeling of teeth, but we're going to need some gums. We're going to need to get into the teeth. So just finishing out some of the gums here. And then, let me see, how can I do it? I don't really want to use black because teeth are made out of such a different material. So let's get a bit of a hint of gums. Okay. And you're just doing sort of little wave shapes almost. Little sort of cup shapes. And these cup shapes are going to hold teeth. See the little cups? There you go. So now you're starting to feel who DURATHRAX really is. Yeah, I could like add a Triskelion. That's an interesting idea. You know, and that could be part of your story too. Again, like running with whatever implications come out of your creative process. So maybe she was created by men. Foolish men. Okay, so now we go to the base color involved with the teeth, which is going to be this antler type color right there. And don't worry about your teeth because they're going to sort of look blunt and silly at first, and that's okay. See, it's like they're kind of like French fries, but we're not done. Okay, so just working. Just working. Okay. So it's just working along here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with me on Saturday morning. Really fun to be sort of back on YouTube. Had a bit of a hiatus there, you know. Summer gets a little crazy. Life changes occur that require attention, so to speak. Okay. So I'm just using an eraser now to make these teeth absolutely brutal. And a couple of them you can do like that. You can do a flatter tooth that then has a cut into it so it looks more like an incisor rather than a fang. And give you a little bit of variety. Okay, there we go. Now I just need to fill in any gaps I might have. Guys. And then we're going to do the second color, which is a much brighter antler color. A bone type color like right there. Now we're doing teeth. Now you're like wondering, like, dude, isn't this a lot of attention to be putting on teeth? And the answer is yes, but this is a big part of getting that dragon look that gives your dragon this, like, dear Lord, this thing is savage, right? Is how the teeth are portrayed. So it's worth some time. Worth a bit of time. Oh, me pot of gold. Oh. All right, and then you get your brightest color, which is a peach, and get like some strong peach highlights in here. And then if you want, you can add a little bit of white to get that like enamel feel. So I just grab the background white there, and then we're good. Then I'm just going to bring some black in here. So see this? I don't even know what I'm doing. Is this lighting? I have no clue. Just wanted some black to define things a little bit. And we're coming up on 10:30, so I'm about out of time, unfortunately. So we will not be getting her done today. This is too big of a project to do in an hour and a half. All right, then finally, I'm going to bring this gum color into like the nostril. It's underneath some of her scales like this. Crazy. And then just going to accent it with a much brighter red, smaller brush, and little highlights. And these are like little sinews or sort of the wetness of the inner flesh. just like that. Not a bunch of them. And there we are, way back out at 100%. Now for the final step that I want to show you guys, and this is almost like the Guyver or something in this sort of texture she has, and I'm digging that. So the final thing would be, first of all, she's gonna need horns, and they're gonna be like here. And we'll get to that eventually. But the next step that you could go into would be highlighting these scales, and so I'm just going to move up to a new gray, and then I'm going to go in here. That's too bright, so I'm going to mix and then get a milder gray, and then on the tops of the blobs, you can add this highlight, and it's too strong, so I'm going to go back a little ways. Go back here. Check my color. Check myself before I wreck myself. And there we go. So see, there we got this mild highlight. Okay, so now I'm going to do this. So on the tops of the blobs, I'm just painting this color. And you are going to start seeing the magic. There you go. See that? So she starts to become round. And you start to round off some of your shapes. And then conversely, you can take black and very, very lightly, you can paint on the bottoms of some shapes like I did on the eye socket there. See that? On the bottoms. And it gives you that roundness. Then grab your highlight color, go a little brighter, and then another highlight, and that's your upper highlight. So you have 3 colors to form these scales, and you're going to do this on the entire body. And yes, it's going to be terribly time consuming. But it's a dragon, so it's worth it. So now as I see her coming together visually, this is kind of putting me in a mindset of like making sure that she's as badass as she should be, and that's a good mindset. So I might want to revisit some of my design and so on and so forth. But for now, I'm out of time. That was already an hour and a half working on DURATHRAX. Wow, she's crazy. And I think the dog is going completely insane. So I'm going to get out of here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. 110 of you weirdos. And maybe we'll revisit DURATHRAX, or I'll post my final files once I'm done. But I hope this helped you guys work on your dragon projects. And I'll keep working on my dragon projects. So I'll see you guys at Gen Con. Keep an eye on Facebook to track where I am and when I am at Gen Con, and we'll meet up. Otherwise, I'll see you Monday morning, and dog go crazy. So I'm out of here. So I'll check you guys on the other side, and keep it real. Don't steal. You always get a deal, all right? Peace out.